Tim's News Explosion. 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 Tim's News Explosion.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Tim's News Explosion on this Monday, the 3rd of July, 2023. Happy new financial year to everyone, which, of course, ushers in the 25% increase in Australian electricity prices. So be prepared for extra large bill shock. So all of this equipment and lights that I've got here that all of a sudden just got more expensive. We are live on the Wilmsfront YouTube channel, the Wilmsfront Odyssey channel, and the Wilmsfront Rumble channel, and of course live on Entropy, which I put the link into the YouTube live chat, where you can send through a direct question and also send through a super chat. Hello to everyone in the chat, including Jason Moore from the United States and all the regulars. Great to see Dawn Browning, Palo Conservative Australia, and Wolfman's Blunt Razor. I think that's what he calls me, Wolfman, because I'm so hairy. And no matter, I shave every day, but unless I'm having like a close barber's razor shave blade, there's always going to be, I think, 5 o'clock shadow. I haven't had a haircut yet. I have to put in so much hair gel to keep it all in place when we're going to air. It's becoming quite the ordeal. It is 8:30 p.m. here in Melbourne, Victoria, where while our winter big freeze is continuing, it's almost like we're in Siberia. The sun is hardly visible here in Melbourne. Up in France, where it's the Northern Hemisphere summer, it's summer, and the capital of France, Paris, known as the city of love, has turned quite fiery with yet another round of riots being carried out, this time by the new French citizens. France is, of course, famous for its riots. They seem to riot over nearly every political change. I mean, they're up to their fifth republic. They just had the riots over Macron wanting to raise the pension age from 62 to 64. But these latest riots, they contain the diversity of modern France and very multicultural. Now, how did this? It's gone for 6 days now. These riots all over France. It was triggered by the French police killing 17-year-old French-Algerian teenager Nahel Merzouk, who tried to flee a traffic stop on 17th of June. This is the footage here. The officer who fired that fatal shot is currently under investigation for manslaughter. He is in custody and charged with the voluntary homicide by a person in authority. Now, according to his mother, Mounia, his last words to her were, "I love you, Mum." She was leading a rally, Justice for Nahel. They were all wearing these T-shirts, and go further down here. So she says here she doesn't blame the police. "I blame a person, the one who took my son's life. And we go up here. She said, he was everything to me, and that son of a bitch shot him. I only had one. He was my best friend, my son. We were so close. His father, Nahel's father, left his mother before he was born. So he was raised by a single mother. So one of the many fatherless children that are not just in France, but in modern society. So his mother basically saying, see, he was a good boy who didn't do nothing, just fell into a bad crowd. Though the truth is, although he didn't have a formal criminal record, was known to police and had been charged with resisting arrest just the previous weekend, arrested 5 times since 2021. So his judicial file included 15 recorded incidents, including using false license plates, driving without insurance, and for the sale and consumption of drugs. And so obviously his death is what has triggered these riots. But the reason why this traffic stop shooting has become the flashpoint is because in 2017 there was a new French law that passed permitting police to shoot at a vehicle fleeing a traffic stop if the driver was putting passengers and passers-by at a risk, which Nahel was. There were 2 other men in his car. The fact that he in the ensuing chase when before they shot him, he nearly ran over a pedestrian and also a cyclist. And so obviously the police officers, they were worried that he was going to injure or kill a pedestrian or cyclist, or crash and kill another motorist. Now, as we saw in the US summer of 2020, after the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis, peaceful protest outside the local police HQ turned mostly peaceful, as the saying goes.
Attention les frères! Faites-les sortir!
Je me suis mis le bâtiment à feu. Le bâtiment il est à feu.
Mon Dieu, oui. Oui. La première les...
And now some of the innocent victims of these violent thugs. One was a 80-year-old priest, and you might remember that priests have been murdered by Islamist extremists over the past decade, which France has been plagued by. So Father Francis Palais, so he 80 years old, and he was a member of the congregation of St. Vincent de Paul in the city of St. Eden. He was attacked by rioters on Friday and leaving him seriously injured and unconscious. They just decided to hit him with extreme force, knocking him to the ground. They continued to beat him when he was already on the ground and stole his mobile phone and wallet. Thankfully, he is still alive. He's receiving he's in intensive care for serious injuries, and understandably, this brutal attack has sparked outrage in the local community. Now, it's entering the 6th day of the unrest, and you would have thought that, well, all the acts of unprovoked violence against innocent French men and women would be enough to cool things. But what does seem to have, well, the rioters, they don't have the emboldenedness that they once did, because of course they felt emboldened because, oh, the French police, the racial profile, all of the dark-skinned French men and boys, and the UN, of course, got on its high horse and says, yes, there is a major problem with racial profiling in France. But now, well, there should never have been any sort of sympathy for the rioters, but they seem to have really, if they had any public sympathy, it seems to have been evaporating now after there was a ram raid attack on the home of a Paris mayor, Vincent Jeanbrun. So they rammed a car into his property while his family slept, injuring his wife and daughter. He called it, well, attempted murder attempt. Though he vowed to not back down, and he is determined to protect and serve the Republic greater than ever. There's been over 2,400 arrests so far. That is just the current tally. There's been over 4,000 vehicles that have been torched, 750 businesses that have been damaged, and they've now spread internationally these riots to, well, French-speaking Brussels in Belgium, where Macron was at a EU summit, and also Lausanne in Switzerland, and also in overseas French territories and former colonies, French Guyana, the French Caribbean. It's just anywhere where there's a French connection. There's apparently been rioting as well. It's not in solidarity. It's just an excuse for thugs and criminals to commit violence. And now, even in France, there has been a Holocaust memorial that has been desecrated. And now this is the biggest race riot in France since 2005, which lasted 3 weeks. It was triggered by the electrocution of 2 youths at an electrical substation, which they were hiding at when they were being chased by police. So that ended with nearly 3,000 arrests and 3 people killed. Now, as I mentioned, Macron was in Brussels and also at an Elton John concert, and he has blamed, not surprisingly, social media and violent video games. Of course, that's always the scapegoat. So he claimed that you get the impression that for some, they are experiencing on the street the video games that have intoxicated them. We've seen them Snapchat, TikTok, and several others serve as places where violent gatherings have been organized. There's also a form of mimicry of the violence, which for some young people leads them to lose touch with reality. Now, there was some fake news that was spread overnight that the French government had ordered the censorship of social media. That is not true. The BBC also released this you could call it helpful guide, because there is so much footage that is circulating on social media. They've got BBC Verify. So this footage of which is purported to be some rioters who've hijacked a police vehicle, that is from a film. So that wasn't real. Cars falling out of buildings. The reason I'm laughing at that is because it's not real. That didn't happen. Cars are not falling out of building. This is not a sniper who is on top of a French building. So, but the community notes on Twitter is already on top of this as well. So on a lot of these images, if you see them on Twitter, there is a community note, but community notes are not foolproof. Now, obviously, as I mentioned, this is the latest mass civil unrest by the new French men and women as well, though they're mainly male youths. Now, of course, the demographics of France have changed considerably over the past, 50, 70 years. So France, obviously, part of its colonial empire was North Africa. And so there's been this reverse colonization of France after decolonization. So in modern day France, which currently has a population of 68 million, there are 5.3 Maghreb Arabs from North Africa living in France, and there are 2 million indigenous Berbers from North Africa. So if you're following that, the Arabs were the first to colonize North Africa, and so they've gone from over the past 1500 years have gone from North Africa and now to Europe. Now, it's argued that, these countries, Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, they were part of the French colonial empire, and so the citizens of those countries thought, well, we're French as well, so we have the right to go to the French mainland. And obviously, we've seen despite the British Empire being dissolved, former British Empire states, India and Pakistan, a lot of its citizens have migrated to Britain, which, of course, now the UK is led by an Indian in Rishi Sunak. So some refer to as a blowback of colonization. But if you're going to have an empire which includes different ethnic and religious groups, it's hardly surprising that even if you downsize just to where you started from, you'll still the expanded empire is still part of your original country where the empire first started. And now, of course, Paris has the Olympics next year, so it's not a good look for Paris and France to have a massive race riots a year out. Though there were riots across England in 2011 before the London 2012 Olympic Games, and that obviously went without a hitch. So obviously there'll be a huge security presence for the Paris Games next year, and obviously the citizens of France, they'll be hoping that their ethnic and cultural diversity can win them more gold medals, particularly in athletics. And because remember that the new Frenchmen won the won France the FIFA World Cup in 2022, and they almost won it in 2022. The best player in the world at the moment, Frenchman Kylian Mbappe, is a French-Algerian. So they're winning World Cups and gold medals. So there's some good to come out of all of this mass migration and diversity. Now, Kylian Mbappe, he plays for Paris Saint-Germain, which is owned by the Qatari investment group. Now, despite the team, well, most French football clubs have a lot of non-white players. The manager of Paris Saint-Germain is now going to stand trial over allegations of racism at his former club, Nice. And I find this extraordinary. So his name is Christopher Galter. If he is found guilty, he could be sentenced to 3 years in jail. I mean, in Victoria, the maximum you can get for racist or religious vilification is 6 months, and a fine of 45,000 euros. And so this is over accusations he made racist and anti-Muslim comments while manager of Nice. So he is alleged to have said that there were too many black and Muslim players in the squad, and that it didn't reflect the demographics of Nice there. So they're saying our team doesn't reflect the city that we are playing for or are based at. Now, he's denied the accusations of racism and said that he felt hurt at the deepest level of his humanity by the accusations and has taken legal action. And so he's likely to be sacked by Paris Saint-Germain by this after this. But again, this is the whole thing about woke sports. It's never enough. They always find new racism allegation, racist to go after. Now we'll go to up to Sweden now, where there is a growing revolt against what multicultural diversity has brought them. There was a big victory for the Swedish Democrats last year, and this weekend the Swedish police facilitated a burning of a Quran, which basically they allowed it to be conducted safely.
Oberoende av hans son till Muhammed, du är inte profet. Profet. Ditt Koran nu, du ser vad som går. Det gäller inte i Sverige. Ta den till någon annanstans. Den här är atombomb på jorden. Den här är mer än atombomb. Jag vill bara säga någonting. Socialdemokraterna är en son.
And good on the Swedish police for facilitating this freedom of expression. I mean, part of free speech and freedom of expression is that you're allowed to, you should be allowed to desecrate, whether it be a Quran or a Bible. Of course, people are going to be offended by it, but that's part of free speech. The same with flag burning as well. You have the right to burn a flag, whether it's an American, Australian, a pride flag, an Islamic State flag, an Aboriginal flag, whatever, as long as it's done safely, in that it doesn't cause a mass fire there. And Lady of Charlotte has brought up in the chat. I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago that the AFD, the Nationalist Party in Germany is rising in the polls and is currently the leading party in the former East Germany. So there, and obviously in Italy, Giorgia Meloni, she is pro family, pro Italian culture, and she is, well, she has been very impressive so far. Her response to Pride Month was to have a traditional families month. Now let's go over to the United States, where there were, as it's termed, three big landmark decisions in the final session of the Supreme Court before its summer recess. The first was striking down overt affirmative action admissions policies at American universities. This was Students for Fair Admissions versus Harvard University. So it ruled that it was unconstitutional under the 14th Amendment for Harvard University and North Carolina University to give university positions to Black and Latino students based solely on their race. They can still unconsciously give preferential places to Black and Brown students if they come from a disadvantaged background, but that can also be white disadvantaged students should get the same unconscious, well, conscious consideration. Now, it wasn't white students who were most unfairly advantaged through affirmative action. It was Asian students, because obviously they perform the best academically in the United States, and so affirmative action meant there was actually more discrimination against Asian American students, and they were the main plaintiffs who were part of Students for Fair Admissions case to the Supreme Court. It was a 6-3 decision, so it was split along the constitutional ideological grounds. So you have on the contextualist, traditionalist side of the Supreme Court, you have Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, Chief Justice John Roberts, you have Brett Kavanaugh, you have Neil Gorsuch, and you also have Amy Coney Barrett, and then you have the three liberal justices, Elena Kagan, Sonia Sotomayor, and Ketanji Jackson Brown. Donald Trump getting those three new conservative Supreme Court justices, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Coney Barrett, is probably his most lasting achievement. Joe Biden, of course, said this is not a normal Supreme Court. That's his way of saying that he doesn't like the policy. Lady Charlotte said, what took the Supreme Court so long? Well, for actual constitutional textualist justices to be appointed there, because the founding fathers and those who enacted the amendments to the Constitution, the Constitution and the amendments should be read through the prism of the intention of those who put them in there. Now, the second decision was 303 Creative LLC versus Alanus. And so this was a Christian website designer who wanted to publish online wedding announcements, but only for heterosexual couples. Now, there wasn't a complainant in this case. The owner of this web design company decided to take it to the court to be absolutely sure that she wasn't going to be taken to the Colorado State Human Rights Commission for violating anti-discrimination laws. And now the U.S. Supreme Court decided 6-3 again that they didn't strike down what's termed public accommodation laws. So for example, if we use that, she wouldn't be able to deny her website services to somebody who was homosexual who just wanted to create a business website, for example. This is similar to a 2018 decision, Masterpiece Cake Shop versus Colorado Civil Rights Commission, the gay wedding cake case, where the Supreme Court ruled that the baker can't be forced to bake a gay wedding cake. But public accommodation laws, which were established with the Civil Rights Act of 1964, a cake shop, for example, if a gay couple wanted to go in there and just buy a plain mud cake, they wouldn't be able to be refused service simply because they are known to be homosexual if they're just buying a plain mud cake, for example. But never let the truth or the facts get in the way of a good scare. And so we had the victim in chief from New Zealand, Shania Lau, they, them, claiming that any day now the Supreme Court of the United States will return people of color and black people to segregation, and posted a no gays allowed sign. I'm not sure where that was, and a historical sign which says no dogs, Negroes, or Mexicans. Now, in relation to the striking down of affirmative action, this tweet went viral from an account belonging to a woman claiming her name was Erica Marsh, who said, "Today's Supreme Court decision is a direct attack on black people. No black person will be able to succeed in a merit-based system, which is exactly why affirmative action-based programs are needed. Today's decision is a travesty." So she is like a caricature of the white savior complex, that you need us white people, blacks, to make sure that you get preferential treatment, which because you possibly couldn't make it on your own. Now, Erica Marsh's Twitter bio: proud Democrat, former field organizer to elect President Biden, volunteer for the Obama Foundation, she, her. Now, a lot of people wondering, again, is this a real person, or is it a parody account? I think maybe the giveaway was that Erica Marsh was a fictional character from the 2000 teen drama One Tree Hill. And I think it's for that reason, because it was not marked as satire or parody, that Erica Marsh's Twitter account has now been suspended, because I do agree with Elon Musk that if it's not properly labeled parody, and I noticed that that even some of the more obvious parody Twitter accounts, such as Dr. Ann Lesby and Dr. Jebra Fauci, make it have dead giveaways that they are satire. They said there's something that says they have a PhD in parody. So make it absolutely clear, because the new impersonation parody rules, that they're not going to get, is it called Elon or Musk's now? Because obviously we have Zucked if your Facebook accounts gets suspended or deleted. What do you reckon in the chat? If you get your Twitter account suspended, are you Elon or are you Musk? And now the final landmark Supreme Court decision was striking down Joe Biden's executive order to forgive student loan debt. This was Biden versus Nebraska, because it's to forgive all the unpaid student debt. That's unfair on the people who have already paid back their debt. I mean, they would feel like suckers now. Wow, I just should have waited it out for Biden to waive my debt. And of course, it's unfair to make the people who chose not to go to college because they wanted to be a tradie or do something else with their life, to force them through their taxes to pay for somebody else's education. And now, at the beginning of the new financial year, also ushers in the also ends the month of June. So Pride Month is over. Though I know that the Assistant Secretary for Health in the US, Rachel Levine, declared it a summer of Pride, and Justin Trudeau, he's declared it the Pride season. So they want to make it last all summer. Though coming up, of course, is the 4th of July, United States Independence Day. And so there's a lot of American patriots on Twitter saying quite rightly, hey, we just don't need one day, 4th of July, for patriots. Let's have July, whole month of patriotism. And now, in the 2024 Republican presidential primaries, Donald Trump is 30 points ahead of Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. DeSantis is running his slogan, Florida is where woke goes to die. And his DeSantis War Room Twitter account released an attack ad on Trump, claiming that he's too pro the LGBT agenda.
I will do everything in my power to protect our LGBTQ citizens.
If Caitlyn Jenner were to walk into Trump Tower and want to use the bathroom, you would be fine with her using any bathroom she chooses.
That is correct.
In the future, can transgender women compete in Miss Universe?
Yes.
Make America great again.
Psych!
Think of anything more horrifying.
It really has shut down drag.
Just produced some of the harshest, most draconian laws that literally threaten trans existence.
Congratulations, Ron DeSantis. Mission accomplished. You win.
Now, this ad was attacked as homophobic by the log cabin Republicans, who said that Ron DeSantis' extreme rhetoric has just ventured into homophobic territory, warning that his rhetoric will lose hard-fought gains in critical races across the nation. Left-wing gays have tried to hijack the equality movement by pushing their radical sex and gender policies on children while slandering anyone who disagrees with them. Ron DeSantis and his team can't tell the difference between common sense gays and the radical left gays. He sadly sees them all the same. His naive policy positions are dangerous and politically stupid. And there are a number of the Gays Against Groomers who attacked the ad as homophobic, such as Rob Smith, that Iraq war veteran. Also, Clarkson Dawson, who is a national cheerleading championship and also part of Gays Against Groomers, and also David Leatherwood, who also known as Brokeback Patriot, also another gay against groomer. Now, flashing back to 2016, the reason why Donald Trump said, I pledge to do everything in our power to protect our LGBTQ citizens, he said, from a hateful foreign ideology, because this was after the Pulse nightclub massacre in Orlando, where a Muslim extremist terrorist massacred 50 people who were in the gay Pulse Orlando nightclub. And so Trump said, I'm better for the gay community than Hillary, because, well, I'm going to make sure that they're not shot in a nightclub for being who they are. Now, obviously, the reaction has been from the LGBTQ radicals is that, see, you naive people in Gays Against Groomers, see, they were going to come for you eventually you're proving yourselves to be useful idiots. And this is the logic that the LGBTQ extremists and why they feel the need to defend to the hilt drag queen story time, nude men at pride marches, because they say, oh, well, if we condemn any of it and say it's too far, or then we're conceding ground to the anti-LGBTQ extremists. So this is why none of this perverted and deviant public displays are ever condemned by the activist class, because then we're ceding ground to our enemies. So yeah, that ad probably went too far and was an unnecessary attack, and it also highlighted to me that DeSantis, has he got anything else apart from countering wokeness? I mean, what's his, obviously on foreign policy, he's flip-flopped on Ukraine. Is he going to pay down the $31 trillion national debt? How's he going to do that? What do we know what his other policy is now? I mean, with the US economy recovering, with inflation down to 4%, GDP growth at 1.6%, Biden can just claim in his re-election, he can use Bill Clinton's line, it's the economy stupid, vote for me because the economy is good. And remember, the Republicans did incredibly badly in by midterm standards in 2022, didn't take back the Senate, only just took back the House. It's because they campaigned negatively just what is bad with Biden. They didn't put forward an agenda. And all we know so far is what Ron DeSantis is against. And so obviously, it seems to me that he has the same problem that Mark McGowan did, in that he didn't know what Mark McGowan, obviously part of the reason he resigned is that he didn't really have a purpose after COVID. Ron DeSantis obviously he's chosen being anti-woke as his purpose after he was known as the freedom governor. But it seems that his agenda and his vision is quite stagnant. So I'd love to see what you think in the comments, but I certainly, obviously I'm not a US citizen, I can't vote, but I certainly believe that Trump is the best on the issues, though Trump, he is wanting to also jump on the anti-trans movement, even though he didn't. He did ban transgenders from the military when he was president. I didn't agree with that decision, because there's so many there is actually some sort of study behind why there's so many transgenders in the military, but that they join people with gender dysphoria to try and fight it. So I didn't agree with that, though. Other than that, Donald Trump, he was pretty quiet on the LGBT front, but now he is promising a nationwide ban on child transitions.
I will immediately sign a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content on our children. As I said, I will keep men out of women's sports, and I will sign a law prohibiting child sexual mutilation in all 50 states. Can you believe it? No, can you believe you have to say that? I'm going to sign a law to prohibit child sexual mutilation. Can you imagine saying that 15 years ago? People would look around. What's he talking about? That's taking place in our country. It's insane what's going on.
Now, I saw a few in the replies to this pledge by Trump, and asked him, are you going to, does that include outlawing male infant circumcision? Because that is genital mutilation as well. But of course not, because that would be anti-Semitic. Ron Nielsen says Trump never built the wall. Well, he never built it all across the United States and was pushing the clot shots in the end, weak and inofficial. Though DeSantis, he made the vaccines accessible to Floridians through pharmacies and supermarkets, and that he was a big vaccine pusher as well. And the DeSantis, you remember, he enforced a lockdown in the first wave during the 2 weeks to flatten the curve. It was only during the second wave when he wised up and is like, hang on, this isn't working. This is crushing our state. And so DeSantis has got a real nerve to attack Trump for emboldening Fauci to close down the country. And as paleoconservative Australians said, DeSantis signed anti-free speech law in Israel, which bans you can go to jail for pamphleting if certain people find it offensive. So they're all not they're both not perfect, but I just think Trump has the better record. We won't get into a discussion about literal dickheads on this chat, but it seems it's universal in the chat that everyone is against infant male circumcision, as am I. There is it's all pseudo medical science that is behind it as well. Now, over in the UK, there was London Pride, and the Just Stop Oil brats who desecrated the field of the second Ashes test decided they would do a Lydia Thorpe and lay in front of the London Pride Parade. They made these demands of London in Pride. This is how entitled these people are, that they just feel they can make demands of any group. It's basically blackmail, a form of terrorist blackmail. Do what we say, otherwise we will disrupt your operations. I mean, that is literal definition of terrorist blackmail. So Just Stop Oil, they wanted London Pride to come out against all new gas and oil protests, and they said no. I mean, they're far left cultural Marxists, but they're not that far left. And so this is what happened. Sorry, I forgot to upload it, so it's just uploading and processing now.
We gotta kill this
Now, the man in the white and red dress, he claims that he is both bisexual and non-binary, which, if you're bi means two, so he's contradicting. His gender identity is contradicting his sexuality. He's saying he's non-binary. I believe he probably believes in infinite genders, but he then says, I'm only attracted to the two biological genders. And sorry, had there the Ukraine flag painted on here on his cheeks as well, because you gotta have the Ukraine virtue signaling as well. Well, Ron Nielsen says run them over. Well, one of the best things that Ron DeSantis did was pass a law in Florida that if you ran over climate or BLM protesters, then you wouldn't be prosecuted. But unfortunately, that was struck down by a federal judge. But yeah, this is the thing. These brats that become so emboldened because the police actually arrest the people who try to drag them off. I mean, you saw what happened to Dennis Hutz in Perth when he confronted the Climate Extinction Rebellion protest blocking the road. He was arrested, even though the Extinction Rebellion protesters were obstructing traffic. I mean, the Labor government in South Australia, they've beefed up the penalties there. So in Australia, in some places there is less tolerance. And now Lawrence Fox, the leader of the Reclaim Party, he tried to attend London Pride, but was moved on by the Met Police. He said, "Well, I was supporting it back when back in the 90s and 2000s, the actual original LGB movement." And so he, of course, burnt pride flags on his property a couple of weeks ago. He said he was burning them because they were flags representing the Pride Progress flags. They were flags endorsing child mutilation. There's been a lot of people, Brits, who are trying to claim that Lawrence Fox is mentally ill now, that he's not trying to disparage his activism, just saying, oh, he's just it's just part of a mental breakdown. And now Lawrence Fox, he preempted a decision by his bank, Barclays Bank, to close his bank account. He was like, right, I'm going to take my money out right away. Nigel Farage, a GB News host, newscaster of the year, won an award for it. And of course, Brexit champion, former UKIP and Brexit party leader. He was deplatformed by his bank. They informed him that they were closing his personal and business account, and he can't get another bank account with any other British bank. And now he's not the first person in Britain to have his account closed for wrongthink. Numerous members of Patriotic Alternative, Mark Collette, and also Tommy Robinson, Katie Hopkins, they've had bank accounts closed. And so and as I wrote in my article here, because and I mentioned here that there was no outrage by the conservative media when it happened to British National Party and Patriotic Alternative members, because they have extremist views. But this is how the deplatforming institutions, if they can get away with it with people deemed extremists, they close the net and they deplatform anyone whose political views don't align with the current narrative or messages. Remember, in social media, when social media deplatforming began, it happened to Alex Jones first. Well, he's a far-right conspiracy theorist. His views are dangerous, so it's okay that it happens to him. But of course, the walls moved in, and now the Daily Wire, who, well, they thought they were untouchable. Heaps of their videos are getting taken down by YouTube for misgendering. So they eventually come for the mainstream, more acceptable conservative voices. Yes, happened to Laura Taylor, Mark Collette's Patriarch Alternative, 2LC. Dawn Browning says, Barclays has made my mum close her UK account. She had to transfer everything to Australia now. Well, maybe Nigel Farage, he will move to Australia. He's obviously coming here next week to support Donald Trump Jr.'s tour. Obviously, there has been banking deplatforming here in Australia. ANZ Bank has been the worst offender. And if you watched the Joel and Blair show last week, Blair Cottrell, he informed us that Westpac, even though they said they were closing his account back in 2019, they never actually followed through, maybe because he drew attention to it. But a year later, he found he was still able to log into that account. So they never actually closed it. But I do know of several patriots who have had their bank accounts closed by ANZ, GayNZ, it's more like, given they have their rainbow GATMs. And these have been patriots, nationalists who don't have a huge profile. It's like the ANZ, they got some sort of membership list of a nationalist Facebook group and just decided, well, they're with us, close the bank. And it's happened in the US as well. Enrique Tarrio, leader of the Proud Boys, he got his bank account closed. So it's like, and this because you can't function in our modern technological society without a bank account. So these are like de facto social credit scores that are developing here. This is what woke capitalism. It's now not called corporate social responsibility. It's called diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, and nearly every corporation has one now. They're short. Who the hell do these banks think they are? Well, they think that they're above any form of consumer rights. Now, staying in the UK, obviously I've covered here the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, who he also celebrated Pride in London, even though, well, there's a lot of Muslims who, which is Sadiq Khan says he's of the Muslim faith. Yeah, there are many millions of Muslims around the world who are, well, they according to the Quran, homosexuality is forbidden. And so it is punishable in a lot of Islamic countries, well, in all Islamic countries governed by Sharia law, I should say. And going back to the Swedish burning of the Quran in Sweden, in response, I think it was in Iraq, in retaliation, they burnt the rainbow flag. Yes, so Sadiq Khan, he has a different reading of the Quran and homosexuality and Islam, but his other big crusade is net zero emissions by 2050. He's going to save the planet with his ultra low emissions zone cameras in London, which of course are being vandalized and removed. So to usher in the latest climate deadline, because Greta Thunberg, her doomsday prediction of the end of the world by June 2023 didn't come to fruition. King Charles and Sadiq Khan, they pressed a new climate doomsday button. We've got until 2030 to stop the planet warming by 1.5 degrees Celsius.
3, 2, 1.
King Charles helped turn on a climate clock at a summit in London this afternoon. It triggers 150 similar clocks across the major cities of the UK, counting down the seconds to 2030. The estimated deadline for limiting climate change to 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial levels. But the UK's climate watchdog had a stern warning for the government today. The Climate Change Committee said it's confident that the government would meet its own legally binding targets for cutting emissions by the end of the decade had fallen markedly.
So the UK Conservative government is planning to end the sale of petrol cars by 2030. That's their goal. Now, Greta Thunberg, she was over in Ukraine to meet Volodymyr Zelensky, talking about the ecological damage by the Russian invasion of Ukraine. How dare Putin? And so this was their meeting.
It's really very important signal of supporting Ukraine. It's very important, and really we need your help, your professional help. And I spoke with my team. You had a good conversation. I thank you very much for video format, which we had together. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's very important to have this. You made the decision about this compact of very concrete steps. We've been there in Kherson region, in Mykolaiv region, and a lot of cities. I think.
I saw in the comments here, I bet Putler cancelled Farage's account. This is, I think, the member of parliament that Farage was referring to, who claimed under parliamentary privilege that he had been paid by the Russians, and he blamed that in part for the closure of his account because he's deemed a politically exposed person. Though Zelensky's accounts, well, he has multiple accounts, the money just keeps flowing into his accounts, and in fact it seems that the coalition Liberal National Opposition in Australia want the Albanese government to spend the bigger budget surplus, 19 billion it is now, on aid to Ukraine, just blow it on Ukraine. Peter Dutton said, oh, we're sending our old relics over to Ukraine, or the Vietnam War tanks, and that's not going to help Ukraine. Peter Dutton was saying, oh, well, it's 110 million, it's not enough, raise it more. And now we saw like what writing endless checks to Ukraine does to a country like the United States. Joe Biden negotiated with Congress to raise the debt ceiling again. I mean, I commend Anthony Albanese and Treasurer Jim Chalmers for banking the surplus, because we need to pay down the debt, because obviously the higher interest rates go, that means there is higher costs on servicing that debt. And if the Albanese government just spent the surplus, that would further fuel inflation. And so it is both the economic responsible thing to do for current and future generations to pay down the debt, and also to stop inflation in the short term. We don't know what the Reserve Bank of Australia will decide tomorrow. It's first Tuesday of the month. Could there be another rate rise? Who knows? But we did see inflation dip slightly to 5.8%. The economy is line ball, hardly growing at all, though the budget is in a healthy position thanks to commodity prices and the fact that there is low unemployment at the moment. We'll see if that low unemployment remains once the restart of mass migration to Australia really kicks in. But the beginning of the financial year also ushered in the beginning of the National Anti-Corruption Commission, the NAC. So its commissioner is Paul Brereton. Now, it's not going to have the super powers to be a law unto itself, like the New South Wales Independent Commission Against Corruption. After almost 2 years, it handed down its findings on former New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian, and it accused her of serious corrupt conduct for not declaring a conflict of interest over deciding over 2 grants to the Wagga Wagga electorate, and because she was in a secret relationship at the time with the MP Daryl Maguire, who has also been accused of serious corruption by ICAC for enriching himself through property deals, using his position as an MP. Now, the thing is, even though like they're both ICAC has deemed like you're both correct, we've decided it's only recommending charges against Daryl Maguire and not against Gladys Berejiklian. So, is corruption an offence or not? This is the thing. So, they found her to be serious, to be engaging in seriously corrupt conduct, breaching public trust, but it's not criminal. And so they're all the Liberal leaders from all around Australia, from the New South Wales opposition leader Mark Speakman to federal opposition leader Peter Dutton, have defended Gladys Berejiklian and attacked ICAC, saying that look, all she's guilty of is just choosing a bad boyfriend. And if you listen to the phone taps, he was really like always berated her for not putting his the money for his electorate in the budget. And now she says the reason that she didn't declare it because she didn't think it was significant enough. She is of Armenian ethnicity, and in conservative Armenian culture, if you announce a relationship, it basically means that you're going to marry the person. So she declared the relationship publicly. It basically would have mean, well, we're going to get married. It's serious. Gladys is currently with, she's been with him for 2 years now. They started dating just before Gladys plunged Sydney into that extended 2021 lockdown. Arthur Moses SC, who was Ben Roberts-Smith's lawyer and is now defending Network 10, who are taking their former political editor Peter Van Onselen to court, accusing him of breaching a non-disparagement clause against the network. Now, of course, because Gladys was Premier of New South Wales, it meant that the standard practice, it's not compulsory, but it's bringing precedent. If you're under investigation by ICAC, you stand aside. Now, Chris Minns, because he knows the current New South Wales Premier, Labor, he said, well, we didn't call on Gladys to resign. She chose to. People can make what they want of the findings, is because Chris Minns knows that he could be done over by ICAC as well. I mean, it was a bottle of wine he failed to declare Barry O'Farrell. Because he was seen to mislead ICAC, he resigned. And the man who set up ICAC, the New South Wales Liberal Premier in the early 90s, Nick Greiner, he had to resign because of ICAC, but he was cleared during an appeal. But here in Victoria, if you're the premier, you can get away with corruption because corruption is basically legal. I mean, Dan Andrews, when there's a damning IBAC report, he just says, well, thank you for this educational report. I mean, he's appointed his mates to numerous government positions. I mean, one of his former staff members is the assistant commissioner with Victoria Police. Former ministers Lisa Neville and Martin Foley are now on state government health boards, and his former deputy James Molino was appointed the head of the Suburban Rail Loop Authority. I don't know what his qualification is for transport infrastructure. He wasn't even the minister for transport infrastructure. And there are all these, with all of the contracts for the big build, it's all quid pro quo with deals with the unions and the contractors or everything. I mean, it's so corrupt. And obviously, because Dan has appoints all of the police commissioners, the magistrates, the judges, the people in the director of public prosecutions, they all do his bidding. And that's why people like Senator Slane, Neil Erickson are constantly prosecuted for hurting people's feelings. Meanwhile, the Dan's director of public prosecution is not going to file charges against the Victoria police officers who were complicit in the Lawyer X scandal using underworld figure lawyer for the underworld figures Nicola Gobbo as a police informant. And because she says that, oh, well, so much time has passed, people can't remember things, even though she was the one, the DPP. I should probably look up her name to name and shame her. She was the one who said that she was the one who prosecuted the quashed George Pell child sex abuse convictions, which was based on memories from 25 years ago. While the Law X, this is just memories from, well, less than that. Kerry Judd, KC, she's the current DPP. And we had also the Victoria Day Council Awards, where Brett Sutton, the outgoing Victorian Chief Health Officer, he was awarded the Victorian of the Year. Now, Victoria Day Council, this is unrelated to the Victorian Australian of the Year. So the Victoria Day Council is actually a private organisation which celebrates Victoria Day, which is on the 1st of July when Victoria broke away from the colony of New South Wales in 1851. So happy Victoria Day for July 1, which was Saturday. And also Vizzy, headed by Anthony Pratt of the Pratt family. Vizzy was the corporate citizen of the year. And the Victoria Day Council is also, well, it supported Dan and Brett's public health measures, i.e. police state lockdowns, because they said it was, well, and so because of that, they didn't hold awards in 2021, even though they could have held them virtually. So yes, this was just a private institution which is headed by leftists who gave a gong to lackeys of Dan Andrews. Now we have a update on the Voice referendum, and I'll make sure I should play the music. Now, the Yes 23 campaign, they've ditched their plans to recruit sports stars and celebrities to spruik the voice. Instead, they're going to rely on the stories or voices of ordinary Indigenous Australians who are in favour of the voice. And Labor Senator Pat Dodson, who's been away fighting cancer, he returned to the public debate since the voice is now, the no case is winning, and claimed that if Australia votes no, then we won't have any authority or standing to criticize China over its human rights records. He says the country needs to have clean hands. So basically, this is another form of moral blackmail. If Australia votes no, it doesn't mean that all the Aboriginal Australians are going to be rounded up and put into concentration re-education camps like the Uyghurs are in Xinjiang province in China. So, he's just, Pat Dodson, by saying that, oh, we won't be able to criticize China if the voice gets voted now, he's given China ammunition to attack us. I mean, China is a totalitarian dictatorship with no free speech. I mean, if no gets up, people like Pat Dodson and Marsha Langton and Thomas Mayo are still going to be able to complain that Australia is racist and all of that stuff. And also in China, when there's Chinese government events in Xinjiang province, there's no welcome to country by the Uyghurs. I mean, seriously, what a absurd analogy. And the Yes 23 advocacy groups, they held, well, community rallies all around Australia. There just happened to be these spontaneous rallies attended by thousands in the major cities there. So they're trying to create the impression that that is grassroots. So of course, we know that leftists, they can always make time in their schedule to attend any form of rally there. So that was hardly surprising. And they even were able to move to be in, people were able to move in a yes, I haven't got the photo, but yeah, so the helicopters above could film people formulating the yes letters. So they had the resources to do that. And this week is also NAIDOC week, another Indigenous Aboriginal week. So there is, we already had Reconciliation Week and Sorry Day. So like with all the alphabet days, there's all of these Indigenous Aboriginal First Nation days. Now, it was great to see you, Lady of Charlotte, on 99 Iron Duke's stream on Friday night about the voice. It was a very thorough discussion. And on Friday, I recorded a segment on Reality Check Radio with Paul Brennan. So that aired this morning. So I'll include the link into the show notes page. So they're wanting an Australian to talk about the voice constitutional referendum debate, what it is all about. So I gave the most extensive summary, condensed summary that I could. So I'll put that in the show notes. I might also embed a post on the unshackled.net. Now, as you know, I'm sort of umming and ahhing about whether to take out a Twitter Blue subscription. And Elon Musk on the weekend, he has made the decision because of he said to address extreme levels of scraping and system manipulation. We've applied the following temporary limits. So it's now up to 10,000 for verified accounts, 1K for unverified accounts, which is mine, and 500 for new unverified accounts. And there's again a lot of people saying, look, this is the end of Twitter now. How can you encourage people to use a platform that limits your participation? Musk is saying, like, look, this is because Twitter is growing so much that we need to take this action. And he even retweeted his own I don't think he runs his own parody account, but he retweeted the Elon Musk parody account. He said, the reason I set a view limit is because we are all Twitter addicts and need to go outside. I'm doing a good deed for the world here. Also, that's another view you just used. And another thing he tweeted, you awake from a deep trance, step away from your phone to see your friends and family. And the venue for the Musk versus Zuck MMA fight could be the Colosseum in Italy. So this was reported by the Sun in the UK. So UFC boss Dana White has begun talks, and so Zuckerberg was contacted by an official from the government in Italy about staging the UFC fight, according to TMZ Sport. So, and now Zuckerberg, obviously, he looks like a skinny nerd. And have you seen that photo of Musk on a yacht? He's got a pale white saggy dad bod because he's in his 50s. He looks younger because he's had the transplant there, so he'll need to train. Now a lot of people, they aren't coping with their Twitter view rations. Maybe if you're wanting to make sure that you utilize your Twitter views well, Count Dankula is back. So return. So in response to being called a racist, Count Dankula said, excuse me, I'm 1,000th Cherokee. Elizabeth Warren, people like her won't now falsely need to claim their Cherokee to get into Harvard anymore with the end of affirmative action. There'll be a lot less race fakes around. And in response to Mark Burns saying, you're a disgrace to Republicans. With grammar like that, you were never getting into college anyway. When are you going to make women illegal, Justice Dankula? Right after I take their votes away? Well, the Equal Rights Amendment never passed, thanks to Philip Schlafly. Imagine if the Equal Rights Amendment did pass. What the Supreme Court would decide how to apply that to society. And in response to affirmative action was a safeguard to prevent racism. Looks like it didn't work. And in response to Miranda, careful, I'm crossing the road, boiling kettle, walking down the street. I can still be stupidly wrong. Explain your careful decision. We decided that you need to be smart to go to college. I mean, in Australia, it's all decided by the ATAR score. I mean, you can't have a more colorblind system than that, a score, where the universities don't even read your race. They just read a score. And, well, a more blunt one by Count Dankula, court is now in session, whores. So Justice Dankula was one of the accounts that got permanuked pre-Musk, but is now back now. So thank you, everyone, once again, for joining me on Tim's News Explosion. There, of course, will be a further report from Tiger Mountain with Richard Wollstonecroft later in the week, and another Tim's News Explosion next Monday, 8:30 p.m. Melbourne time on the Wilmstorm YouTube, Odyssey, and Rumble. Make sure to help with the algorithms. Make sure wherever you're viewing Tim's News Explosion, give a thumbs up, comment below. Make sure that if you haven't subscribed, and click the bell to enable notifications. And remember, if you don't want to send through super chats through Entropy, you can support the Unshackled by taking out a premium membership. So it's bronze $5 per month, silver $10 per month, gold $25 per month, and platinum $50 per month. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Again, stay safe, stay sane, stay warm, stay happy, stay laughing at Clown World. Stay optimistic, and also just just stay on the level is the new one I've come up with as well. Good night, everybody.
Tim's News Explosion. 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 Tim's News Explosion.